Hi, this is Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau, and it's Friday, and it's almost 10 o'clock, so it's our Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher, and now for this series that we're doing, gosh, this might go on if we hit all the extension agencies. It may go on for at least 15 weeks. This series is devoted to the University of Arizona's Cooperative Extension system, and I like to kind of, in layman's terms, describe it as the science research is occurring. I can't think of the word. Occurring at the university's applied science that gets to be applied here at Extension. So this time we're in Tucson, and I am privileged to interview Jessica Bell, and your title is Tucson Village Farm Community Engagement and Development Coordinator.
That's right.
Yes, so welcome, and thank you so much for being willing to being interviewed and hanging out with us for however long this interview takes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. And for those of you that will be joining us live, if you have questions, don't hesitate to post in the comments section, and Joel, my right-hand guy, my partner in crime, he'll call out those questions. They have to be related, by the way, to what we're talking about here. So in this case, Tucson's, Pima County's Cooperative Extension Agency, and specifically Tucson Village Farms. We have that great little picture that I can only imagine. You probably maybe even got some students to paint that for you, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's precious. So we want them to be related to what we're talking about, and that's what the discussion is. Well, Jess, thank you so much again for being willing to do this. So talk about your position, how long you've been in it, and how it ties into Tucson Village Farms.
Yeah, so I've actually been involved with Tucson Village Farm for 11 years.
Oh my goodness.
I went to the University of Arizona myself, and I hopped around. I could not pick a major. I was interested in a lot of things, and I ended up enrolling in a community school garden workshop class. And I was working at a Montessori school as their garden instructor, and they sent me to a training at Tucson Village Farm. And it was a life-changing experience for me. I kind of fell in love with the people and the mission and the vision, and ended up doing a couple more internships at Tucson Village Farm. I went on to be in AmeriCorps, and then I did AmeriCorps again, and then I did an externship, and eventually when I had graduated, I worked as a contractor, moved away for a few years, and then when I had moved back to Arizona, they had a position open for community engagement and development, which, funding can be sparse, so it's rare that we have the funds to take on a new staff member. So I was fortunate enough to apply, and with great enthusiasm ended up getting the job. And so, yeah, it's been a pleasure to watch Tucson Village Farm grow and to just be a part of the magic that is Tucson Village Farm.
That is so cool, and my sense is you really have a passion for it.
I mean, I think watching young people, we try to hook people at a really young age, and so I've got to witness now over 11 years, like the kids that were 10 are now 21, and they're still involved.
Oh,
and
awesome.
There's a huge sense of community. There's a huge sense of belonging. I think we attract people that maybe don't feel like they fit in other places, and we believe in them, and we let their skills shine, and we help them develop new skills. And so, what started as just like agriculture education has grown into so much more than that, and it's really a story worth sharing.
That's so neat, and I'm so glad that we're going to help you share that. So conceptually, what is the Tucson Village Farm? I mean, we know that there's always going to be 4-H through Extension. There's always going to be the Master Gardener programs through Extension. There's always, very farm-specific research, applied science, application workshops, stuff like that. But this is unique to you, so or your team. So explain it.
So Tucson Village Farm is an educational urban farm made for and by the youth of the Tucson community. And we started 15 years ago with a mission to teach kids where their food comes from, to empower them to live healthy and happy lives. And since our starting, we've really grown. So we're not just doing agriculture education and teaching kids where carrots and broccoli comes from. We've really expanded our programming to do a lot of nutrition education, and we found some of our most popular projects to be outdoor adventures, getting young people off their phones and into the great outdoors. And I just like to remind people that Tucson Village Farm is under the umbrella of Cooperative Extension, and Cooperative Extension is in every single county of every single state in the United States, with the mission of providing research-based education to businesses and community members and families. And it's really helpful things, and it's often free or low-cost resources. And so no matter who's listening and where they are, they can find their nearest extension, or if they're traveling, find that nearest extension and get really applicable knowledge and research that can benefit the people around them through not only agriculture and nutrition, but also things like youth development and things that benefit families and growing families and young people.
That's so good. And I'm glad that you mentioned that every county in the United States has a cooperative extension. But what's kind of cool, and at least what I feel like I'm discovering in doing this whole series of the different county extensions here in the state of Arizona, is that while a lot of the programming is exactly the same in many ways, there's something that kind of pops out that's kind of a little bit unique to you.
Yeah.
Can we say that about the Tucson Village Farm?
Yeah, I mean, Tucson Village Farm started with two women, Elizabeth Sparks and Lisa Carter, and I think that Tucson Village Farm has grown so much bigger than they ever would have imagined. Lisa came from the East Coast. She was our gardener. She got connected to Elizabeth Sparks, who, maybe I'm biased, but I think she's one of the best 4-H youth development leaders in the country. She's a huge yes man. She's an incredible leader and boss to our team. And I think that what has started so small and just like got a lot of following and momentum from the community for doing such good work has just grown incredibly. And so I do think, like you said, a lot of extension programs are quite similar. Tucson Village Farm is reaching over 20,000 people a year through our various programming. In 2024, we did 89,000 hours of education. And so, every single day at Tucson Village Farm, we have 2 locations. We have anywhere from 80 to 150 young people out learning. We're also taking people into the mountains. We're taking people river rafting.
Oh, really?
So our scope
of work. I want to be a kid again.
Yeah. Our scope of work just continues to grow and grow and grow. And one thing that we hear over and over again is that Tucson Village Farm gives people a sense of belonging. And so, yes, it's the young people that come to our field trips and our summer camps, but it's also, people that come that are retired, that feel like they don't have much of a purpose anymore. They come and they volunteer and they get hooked. And, we have over 100 regular volunteers, and they do so many hours of volunteer work. And so Tucson Village Farm is really, at the heart of it, a community organization. We could not do all that we do without the support of community members and like the backing of Tucson really believing and loving Tucson Village Farm.
20,000 people a year are cycled through it. So that's a lot. Now I'm going to ask you the 30,000-foot question. In your words, you can put them in your words. You don't have to have a mission statement of Cooperative Extension memorized, but in your words, why is Extension so valuable?
I mean, Cooperative Extension is providing education, but not research-backed education to communities, to families, and they have such a focus on youth development. And I think, if we want to make change in our culture and our society, we need to be believing in the young people and educating the young people, because they're going to grow up, and what happens in the early years is really, really influential. But I think Extension is more than valuable because we need to keep growing food, and we need to keep having up-to-date research on what allows people to thrive and to be healthy and to get that education out. And if Extension wasn't there, I don't know who else is doing it as widely as Cooperative Extension. And so if these programs are to be cut, which, they are with a lot of the funding cuts happening, it just has devastating effects.
And so, especially in certain communities where a community that might be underserved.
Communities and rural communities, they might not have the same access to education and resources. And so that's something that Extension does, is they go out and we have target audiences of people that might not get this education. And it's important for people to have this. And so, yeah, I am very passionate about Cooperative Extension. I think I do a lot of the tours for Tucson Village Farm. And at the beginning of every tour, I educate community members on like, what is Extension and how can you benefit from it? The Master Gardener program is huge, but there's also a family and consumer science and family engagement. And, some people here in the Pima County Extension office, they're doing family classes for people with young children under the age of 3 that uses like the latest brain science to teach people, how they're raising their kids will affect them long term. And so there's just so much that I think goes under the radar that's worth like shouting on the rooftops of like, this is here for you. And ideally it's low cost for you to take advantage of.
Yeah. When we pulled up and we're walking into your main headquarters here, we heard all these little voices, and I think you told me today is
today's the cutest program that goes on at Tucson Village Farm. It's called Little Sprouts. So Little Sprouts is early education for 2 to 5-year-olds and their accompanying grown-up. And we get every kid in the garden. One thing about Tucson Village Farm is we want every person that comes to the farm to get to plant something and then to eat something that someone else has planted, to really show like the cycle. And what we found is, the younger you can get kids eating vegetables, the more normal it is. They're not going to be like, oh, that's green, I don't want to touch that. But if they're involved in the planting and the watering and the caretaking, when the broccoli's ready, they're usually very excited.
Yeah.
Our slogan is, we're changing the world one carrot at a time. And so we want to give youth opportunities to get excited about things that are really healthy. And I think we blow a lot of people's minds, not just young people, but grown-ups alike, in that if you're growing food and you're eating local food, good ingredients and good intention usually can't go wrong.
Right.
And so I think it's really delicious. But that's our youngest program. So 2 to 5 is called Little Sprouts. Our elementary program is called Growing Forward. And then we have middle and high school program called Digging Deeper. And so most Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, we're working with youth from around the Tucson community. We just started a new program for homeschoolers. So we have 2 homeschool programs going this week. And just we say our programming is from typically 2 to 25, because while we're working with the young people, we're also really resourced in the University of Arizona, working with interns like myself 10 years ago, to get people that want to be educators or want to do outdoor education, real life experience where we can mentor them and we can help them and give them experience teaching.
Great. Yeah. And who doesn't, especially when you're little, who doesn't want to get their hands dirty, at least in the dirt?
Yeah.
Good soil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about your personal experiences working for Extension, just like even if it's like a favorite regular experience. I'm sure the Little Sprouts can be
fun and
certainly a blessing, but anything that always just immediately comes to mind when somebody asks you that.
I think one thing that I've loved about working with Extension is there's so much going on. And so as a creative person, I feel like I've got to kind of like dip my toe in a variety of programs and a variety of different skill sets that I wouldn't necessarily otherwise have got. So when I started, I was the one of the field trip teachers. And then I moved into teaching the Little Sprouts program. I was able to develop curriculum that ended up getting published, which is a unique thing. Working at Extension, you have access to researchers that can make sure that what you're teaching is accurate and true.
I told you had a good name, a good author's name for a book or byline, in this case, curriculum, Jess Bell. It's simple and easy to remember, and it has a ring to it.
Yeah, so I kind of started at a lot of the program side, and then throughout my time have transitioned. I now do a lot of the marketing and essentially anything that's outward facing to the community. So I do the website, I do the newsletter, I do the social media, I do tours every single month. People that walk in the door, I'm happy to tell them about what we're doing. And I think when I came back to work full time, Tucson Village Farm has always been an amazing place. And, 3 or 4 years ago when I started full time, it was just like not enough people knew about it. And one thing that happens at Extension is everyone is so busy doing the good work that they do that they didn't have a dedicated staff person to like share what is happening and the opportunities available. And so that's been a really special part of my role, is allowing the programs to grow just by educating people on what's available to them.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, those that are listening live and or will watch this later, we'd love to give you the tour. But since we do this, we literally go through the app on our smartphones when we're outside and the temperatures are still kind of rising into the high 90s. Yesterday it was, I think, 102. Our phones overheat. Otherwise, we'd be showing you this. But this is a good reason to go to the website. And I would just imagine they just go to Pima County Extension, and then
you can find Tucson Village Farm through tucsonvillagefarm.arizona.edu.
Okay, perfect. And even simply Googling Tucson Village Farms will eventually get you there. So I would say check it out, or especially if you're a Tucson resident, you're a little bit more curious about it, and you've got some little sprouts that might want to be part of this program, right?
Bring them on over.
Yeah, bring them on over. So you've told us a little bit about Tucson Village Farm and a lot of the things you do, and I think you said 2 locations. Is there anything else you want to add to us understanding? Because we're certainly featuring this today, even though Pima County Extension does a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, so I mentioned a lot of kind of what we're doing education-wise through our school field trips and our educational programming. But we do a lot more than that. Our 4-H Healthy Living Ambassador program is something worth highlighting. So we actually started our 4-H program in 2012, and we had 6 young people enrolled. And one thing that's unique about Tucson Village Farm is when a lot of people think of 4-H, they think of raising livestock and taking it to the state fair. We have chickens and worms, but we don't, as of right now, have livestock that we're raising. So we've learned to do 4-H differently. And one thing that Liz Sparks is really good at is, it doesn't matter what you get kids doing. It's just that they get together doing something.
Oh, good.
And that they can build skills along the way. And I think we allow young people to rise up into becoming leaders without them really realizing that's what's happening. And I'm so blown away by the young people that work at our farm. We have campers that start at 6 years old doing a culinary camp. And by the time that they're 14, they're like running the camp, and they know everything. They know more than the AmeriCorps coming on because they've grown up here. And so now, and
I bet they're good cooks.
They're amazing. Yeah. They're amazing cooks. And so last year, 2024, we had over 200 active 4-H HLA members. So the growth of that program, we had our first meeting last night. For this year, we had, I think, over 150 teens, which to get that many teens
in one spot
to come and to feed them all is quite a feat. And then the way that we run our HLA program
stands for
Healthy Living Ambassador. Okay. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
They get to kind of pick what they're excited about. So for people that are interested in how do you grow food and how do you, especially in the desert where it's really hot and getting hotter, we have an entire farm apprenticeship program. And so any youth between 12 and 18 can sign up for that, and they're getting a year with our farm manager who's going to show them the ins and outs of growing in the desert, which pretty soon people will be looking to places like Tucson on how do we grow food. We have a culinary apprenticeship. We do a lot of events. One worth highlighting is called Sunset Suppers. So we have about 40 teens working with 2 local chefs over the course of a couple months to put on a 4-course farm fresh dinner for 80 people.
Awesome.
And so, months before the event starts, they're looking at what's growing in the garden and cultivating menus. They're testing recipes. They're getting skills in the back of house, learning how do we communicate in the kitchen? How do we do knife skills? What is food etiquette and food safety? What kind of shoes do I need to wear? And then during the event, they're learning front of house skills such as how do I interact with guests and how do I plate and how do I fill water cups. And because they're able to start these programs at 12 years old, by the time that they're ready to apply for a job, we can give them letters of recommendation and say, they haven't been old enough to work in a restaurant, but they do have restaurant skills.
So now how long have you had that specific program?
A few years.
So have you graduated any aspiring chefs yet? Or
they're probably
it's maybe a little bit too early.
Yeah, they're probably in college, I would guess.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I love that event. It's such a feel-good event. We had one last weekend, and one of the things that I get to do is work with the youth to kind of prepare speeches. And they do all the talking on the microphone. They talk about the event. They talk about how much work has gone in. They get to introduce all the dishes, which, to be honest, I'm glad that they introduce them because it's oftentimes food that I don't even know how to say. Like, they're making such fancy things. And I've got to watch their confidence grow through public speaking. And it's so cute. Like, even when it goes, what they would say, it doesn't go well, it's just adorable to watch them talk on the microphone. And then when they get involved, they typically want to stay involved. And so they really just get to continue getting better. And,
It was my own 4-H and FFA experiences that has developed my public speaking skills. And, we all always feel like we can do better or want to do better. But knowing that there were programs out there for youth that can develop this and make it happen, and the confidence it builds in people, the realization that, I can do this too. I may have the butterflies flying in my tummy.
Yeah.
But I've got somebody like Jess that's teaching me. I'm gonna do this.
It's really sweet. After the event, so at the very end, the last person on the microphone brings out all the teens so that the people eating the dinner get to see just how many hands went into making their meal. And, this time they got a standing ovation. And you're just watching like teen after teen file out. But when they went back into the kitchen and the doors were shut, like they just turned loud music on and they were dancing, and they go around and they do a little like sharing circle of kind of what they liked about the event. And they're so proud of themselves. It's really sweet.
And how often do you get that level of confidence building? I mean, how many kids can claim that they got a standing ovation?
Oh, I know.
Half the time that doesn't happen until we get old and frumpy but programs like this really help kids thrive. And it's good to hear you guys are doing things like that. Anything else?
So much else. Also, so this, where we are currently, is Cooperative Extension. Just across the parking lot is what we call our little farm. We have about 1 acre of growing space. This is where we started. We functioned for about 10 years before we got a huge Angel Charity for Children's grant that allowed us to build a culinary education center, which is now at what we call our Big Farm location. So here at Little Farm is where we do a lot of our early education, but most of our programming is actually transitioned to happen at Big Farm because we have a kitchen space. We have a beautiful covered outdoor patio with a fan that we can do cooking demos under. And then that space is about 9 to 10 acres. So we have a lot more growing capacity, and we got funding for 50 fruit tree orchard. So that's over there. We have our 4-H high ropes course over there. And our newest, latest and greatest is we are currently building a animal education structure. So we have some ocean containers and we're getting shade so that pretty soon, we thought we'd have them by now, but everything takes longer than anticipated. We will soon have sheep and goats to continue to make the connection for young people of like, yes, animal products are also a part of what many Americans are eating. We have no intention of eating our animals, but we really want to use like the sheep's wool to do a lot of art. We're increasing our art programming in tie with a lot of mental health education and research. And if you ask youth what their favorite food is, most of the time it's either pizza or ice cream or mac and cheese or something that has dairy. And so it'll allow us to one, use dairy and to show them where dairy comes from. And then our 4-H Healthy Living Ambassador teens make a lot of products that we then sell as fundraisers for them.
Wow.
So they already make soap and chapsticks and salves, but having goat's milk will just allow increased potential of the things that we're able to make. So that is upcoming, and we could talk for hours and there would still be things that I forget, but I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah, and a lot going on here that people don't realize. In fact, it's right off the street, but it feels a little hidden. And so until you drive into the parking lot and walk up to this building, and I know you guys call this a small farm, I'm hoping maybe after this you can show us what's going on with
I'd love to.
The larger farm. So you call this a small farm and the big farm.
Yeah.
That was the other thing I was going to ask you, and you've probably covered it, but what do you see for the future in terms of some of the things that are going on here and going on there? And really the fact that they're expanding it, a lot of construction has been going on. That's some of the new and the future, but anything else that I'm not asking that you have an opportunity now to speak to?
I think our programs will continue to grow, and I think one thing that time can allow is just like we have such a high quantity of people, and having more support and more resources from the community can allow us to like really focus on quality. We're in such high demand that it's like often we are lacking the staff potential to bring the people what they want. And so we're working on that, but we're increasing like the available class times for things like our Little Spouts program. We have a weekly market that has really grown. So it happens every Wednesday. It's like our own farmers market. People can come and purchase our fresh farm produce, but we also make a bunch of value added items such as farm fresh soup. We make focaccia bread fresh every week. We have delicious cookies, salad, sauces. And so it's become a huge production, and it's just beautiful, delicious, locally made food.
So where do people come to buy from the farmers market that you host every Wednesday then? Right.
That's at our big farm.
Oh, it is at
every Wednesday from 4 to 6.
Okay.
We do take a break over the holiday times, and sometimes, growing season in Arizona, we're fortunate to have a pretty big growing season. But like right now, we're kind of at a lull. We have like okra and peppers. It's not our biggest selection of vegetables, but that's why we do a lot of the value added items. And you'll see it when I take you on a tour, but we have the best mountain view in town. Yes. We have a huge patio and picnic tables. So we also, when the weather cools down, we break out our new wood fire pizza oven, and families can come and have dinner, get food for the rest of the week, and sit and have a picnic under the sunset with an amazing view. So that's something that I think will continue to grow, and just creating more opportunities for youth. I think a lot of ways that Tucson Village Farm has grown over the past 15 years is by young people that are involved getting ideas, and the staff saying like, yeah, let's make that happen. And that's why things like river rafting is now a thing. And this last summer, Liz took a bunch of kids on a sailing camp at Catalina Island.
Oh, wow.
Which is like many grown-ups don't even get to go do these experiences. And so, yeah, just letting the youth kind of guide where we're going, because we want them to be excited about what's happening here to keep them engaged.
Excellent. So I'm going to start asking a lot of you that work for Extension this question, kind of a wrap-up question. As it relates to your work, what has been one of the most defining moments in this 11 years that you've been here? Maybe there's more than one defining moment. Yeah. And you can share that. But for you, what's been a defining moment working for Pima County Cooperative Extension?
Two things are coming to mind. The first is actually, it happened probably my first year working here as a field trip educator, going to school to get my bachelor's degree. And as I mentioned earlier in the interview, every youth gets to pick a vegetable and eat it. And so when it's carrot season, we love it to be carrots. We grow orange, red, purple carrots. And it's the thing on the field trip that the kids get very excited about. You know, they get to pick their own carrot. They get to pull it out. They wash it off. They eat it. Nothing tastes better. And then we use the tops to make carrot top pesto and just show them how to reduce food waste overall. But I had this little girl that was so excited to eat her carrot, and she pulled it out of the ground. And her mom was a chaperone on the field trip, and she said, "Oh, honey, you can't eat that." And I was like, "Why? Why can't she eat that?" And she said, "That came from the ground." And I was just like, wow, people need this education.
Yeah.
And what happens on the field trips is a lot of grown-ups want to come as chaperones. They've heard how amazing the Tucson Village Farm field trip is. And so I think what I've seen on the field trip is, yeah, it's really inspiring for the kids to get the knowledge, but it's also really inspiring for the adults to get the knowledge. And one thing is, like you said, I wish I could be a kid again, is we're increasing our programming capacity to do things for grown-ups too. And what that allows is, like, we rely solely on grants, private donations, and small program fees to keep our doors open. And when we allow adults to come to our programs and they can actually afford to pay the money, that allows us to bring more kids here at low cost or for free.
Excellent. And
that gets grown-ups the ability to take part in things like, how do I get knife skills? How do I make something from scratch? How do I use fresh ingredients instead of processed? And so I think that's really cool. But that was the first defining moment that came to mind. And then the second is just the variety of kids that have come through here. There's 2 kids specifically, and they just have the best spirit. They're very vibrant, but every spring break and every fall break, we do a free field trip for elementary students at one of the elementary schools in town that is lower income. There's, I think, over 20 languages spoken there. It has a huge refugee population. And so if you're a parent and your kid suddenly gets a week off of work or off of school and you still have to work, that's very inconvenient. And so we bring a bus to the school. We pick up the kids, we bring them to the farm, we give them a free week of farm camp at the exact hours that their school would be, and then drop them off back at school. So it's like their parents can keep their consistent schedule. So we had 2 kids that came on this field trip when they were in 4th grade. They had just moved to the United States from Rwanda. They spoke 0 English, and they just kept coming. They wanted to keep coming back, and I've got to witness them. Now they're grown-ups, and this past summer they did AmeriCorps terms, and they were so incredible with the campers, and they've just become the best leaders, and they now have won awards for their public speaking and their speeches. And I'm so inspired by them, because they didn't even speak English when they came. And I think it's the belief and the love that they got from Liz especially, but all the people that were like, "Oh, you want to come back here? I will find a way." Including Liz driving on her personal time to pick these kids up and bring them, because they lived on the south side and they couldn't make it up north. But that's just like one impact story of so many.
And multitudes of stories could be told. But those are 2 awesome ones. Yeah. Well, and I can sense your passion. This has been a delight to interview you, Jess.
Thank you so much.
It's a comfort to me knowing how much Arizona Farm Bureau is connected to the University of Arizona and Cooperative Extension in general. It's a comfort to me to know, and I've been running into all of you that way. Every one of the interviews that I've done so far, but you've been a delight to visit with and to talk to. Any last comments? Any last insights? We have more that watch this after the session is done, because we post it to Instagram and also our website, azfb.org. But any other last commentary?
I love to bring anyone on a tour. I do public tours, and I call them field trips for grown-ups. I provide a snack, and subscribe to our Tucson Village Farm newsletter. We try to make it the most unannoying newsletter that lands in your inbox, and follow us on social media, because we have so many fun things happening. And I think even if people aren't in Tucson, we have really great ideas and great curriculum that we're happy to share far and wide to other communities that might need it.
That's awesome. You guys are doing what Extension is supposed to do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. Take care.
Oh, you too.